Before you read this, I want you to know that there is no happy ending to this story, and I don't know if there ever will be one, as long as I live. I am a nervous wreck who's afraid of his own shadow, and no amount of medication will ever fix that. I guess I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. It all started 4 years ago. Let me tell you how all those glory days, I had an excellent job, a beautiful wife, a huge home. We even had a child on the way, but it was too good to last. One night, I was working a little later than usual. It was on a cold Tuesday. I remember it because it had been scorching hot summer that year, and it seemed to be the only cool day in weeks. The office slowly started to empty as people packed up for the night. While I was stuck in the computer, fixing up my report, eventually the office became completely barren, as no one but myself remained. I looked at my watch. I believe it was around 12:45 a.m., but that's not important. What was important was that they were shutting down the power in 15 minutes, and I needed to finish up quickly as possible. I was at my limit, typing 100 upon hundreds of words a minute, trying to vain to finish off my report. That's when I saw it. It was the only glimpse I could ever swear. I saw someone pass out in the corner of my eye. It was strange, since the last person in the room was my manager, and he was the only one to tell me that the power was gonna go out, and that he'd be leaving. I became unsettled, and felt as if I should leave. So I decided to come in early to finish my report. I shut down the computer and looked back at my watch. It was getting close to 1 a.m. So I grabbed my stuff and rushed out the door towards the elevator. When I saw the same movement, this time, I spun around to see what it was, but nothing was there, so I just sighed and pushed down the button. When I heard the noise of the elevator growing close, all of a sudden the power went out. I slammed my fist against the metal door in protest. I was tired, paranoid, and so hastily headed towards the stairwell. As I expected, it was pitch black. I couldn't see a thing. I gripped on what appears to be the railing and slowly made my way down the stairs. I was about halfway down when I heard the sound of a nearby door shutting. I was feeling nervous, so I picked up my pace a bit. I was getting close to the first floor when I started to hear footsteps behind me. I was becoming more paranoid, so I began to jog down the stairs. The footsteps behind me were picking up in pace, so I guess I became a little unfocused as I tripped face first onto the floor. I looked up and saw the door to the first floor. The footsteps sounded like if they were getting closer, so I scrambled onto my feet and ran through the door as fast as I could. I sprinted through the lobby and made it through the main doors. I felt a wave of relief come over me as I attempted to catch my breath. I felt a little bit silly. I thought to myself that it was probably just the caretaker, and laughed at it if it was just me being scared of the caretaker. I opened the glass door and walked out onto the sidewalk. It was drizzling just a bit as I forgot my rain jacket back at home. I considered calling a cab price since the buses stopped running at this time, but I felt like it would be better if I just walked since I've been sitting in the chair all day. This was a big mistake. About 2 blocks away from the building, I started hearing footsteps again. I reassured myself that it was probably nothing and continued on. But once again, the pace began to pick up. I reassured myself yet again. The pace picked up to a full-blown sprint. My paranoia kicked in. I ran as fast as I could to what came to my ears worsened my fear. I could hear more than one set of footsteps. There were several. A smirk came across my face because my house came into view. I was almost home free, and I made it to my path to my doorstep. Before I even know it, my smirk faded, and my foot got caught on a stone, and once again I came pummeling towards the ground. I turned my head just for a moment I soon won't forget. There were 5 men in overcoats and shades standing close behind me. I backed up towards the door as I stared into their blank faces. That's when my back hit the door. I quickly reached for the doorknob and turned it with the lightning speed. Suddenly, the doors burst open and I collapsed onto the floor. I jumped onto my feet and slammed the door shut and locked it tight, and sighed with relief. I chuckled a bit before I turned around to see and go find the phone so I could call the police, and that's when I was filled with great terror. What I saw was my wife. She was lying dead on the floor, her blood smeared everywhere. I could feel myself becoming faint, and I must have passed out because the next thing I remember was waking up to the police banging on my door. I was blamed for the murder of my wife and unborn child, and I felt as if I deserved it. Because maybe, just maybe, if I hadn't taken the cab, she'd still be alive. After the trial, I was checked into the hospital for being mentally unstable. They told me that I have to come in terms with what I have done, but I know what I saw that night, and no doctor will convince me otherwise. I still don't know why those men did what they did, but one thing's certain. They ruined my life, and I won't sleep till every last bit of them is dead. As I said before, there is no happy ending to this story, but I think my chances of one just went up. I can hear footsteps now. And that, my little pretties, was No Happy Ending, a creepypasta written by Dazarbalt. Balt or something. I think that's how you pronounce it. My final thoughts on the story. Okay, I actually heard of this narration from Silver Stories as well as Midnight Researcher. So I decided to go ahead and, actually narrate this story because I've seen just a few people actually went out of their way to narrate this story. I mean, this is actually a pretty good creepypasta for what this one is. So basically, there is like a group of five men chasing the protagonist down the street or something when the protagonist walks home, only to him to walk in to find out that his wife had been killed. I mean, the concept of it is just messed up in general. I'm not denying that one bit. But it's also it's very sad to see that the wife and his unborn child have died. I mean, that's pretty depressing, but at the same time though, I have a feeling that those men had actually broken earlier, killed the wife, and then they started to go after the husband, which I mean, that's most likely it, but yet again, yeah. I mean, the story is well written as well as a good grammar, sentence structuring, and all that. Now, I have to say about this story that it really has like a fear, of paranoia. Like it's basically talking about somebody with paranoia. Although this story is, not long, it's still a pretty decent, length of stories. So, it's a decent length in a story. One of the big things I have to say about this story was that it actually played out well with the whole concept. You know, it actually worked out well. This is kind of one of the reasons why I'm trying to go after, most regular pastas, unless I find a lost episode that is good or a story that, Matthew Bumford wrote. And by the way, I'm gonna have to trying to read more of Matthew Bumford's stories. I know I haven't done them in a while. I know the recent one you guys heard and saw was Vito's Revenge, which I finally had the opportunity to narrate that Garfield creepypasta that he wrote. Still pretty good though, actually. I really do like it. I really like it a lot. So now, if I have to say something I did not like about this story, I mean, the ending was sad and all that, which is obviously the explanation to the story, no happy ending. So, I guess that's one explanation. That's an explanation on what's going on and all that. But I have to say, I do end up having one thing negative about this story. Like, why were the men going after the protagonist? Were they going to kidnap him? Were they going to rob him? I mean, this story has actually left a couple questions as to, why this protagonist was getting chased by these men. Like, were they going to rob this guy? Were they going to kidnap him, kill him, or whatever they were doing? I mean, we don't really get that explanation as to why they were doing this. We don't really get that explanation. I mean, it'd be nice if we had an explanation as to why this protagonist was getting, chased by men and what the men were going to do. I had a feeling they were going to rob him and kidnap him possibly. I really don't know, to be honest. Like, I would like to see an explanation as to what these men were going to do. But yet again, though, you never really know with strangers. Like, you never know what strangers who are end up, becoming these type of people, what they're gonna do. I mean, this is kind of one of the reasons why you shouldn't really, be out late at night unless you're working the night shift, which I do feel bad for people that have to work the night shifts. I mean, that's just me though, but yeah. Anyways, with that being the case and with that being said, let me sit here and say this now. Like I'm gonna say, the only negative I have to say about this story is that there's no explanation on what the men were originally what they were going to do to the protagonist, the husband. I had a feeling they were going to rob him, probably, and kidnap him most likely. But yet again, I really don't know because this story doesn't really give out too much of an explanation as to what they were going to do to the protagonist. I would like to see maybe an explanation on what the protagonist is, what the men were going to do to the protagonist. That would actually help out with the story a lot more. Yet again, I'm going to say now, this is only my own personal opinion. You happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of this story would have to be a 9 out of 10. I'm giving it a 9 because of how beautifully well made this story was. It's definitely believable in a sense because these things can happen to people, and it's a pretty good story. But the only thing negative I would have to say about this story was the fact that what was it? Oh yeah, the fact that, what were these men originally going to do to the protagonist? Like, we don't really know what these men were going to do to the protagonist. I have a feeling they were going to kidnap him, rob him or something, maybe kill him. But yet again, I really don't know. It doesn't really explain much, but yeah, that's probably all I have to really say about it. But yet again, I'm just saying this now. Well, you can use your imagination on what these men were going to do to, about what they were going to do to the protagonist. You guys can use your imagination. Feel free to leave me what you think would have happened in the comments below. So, anyways, with that being said, what did you guys think about this creepypasta? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what would you have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you're brand new here to this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload so that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.